Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Am I audible? Am I visible? Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Great. We'll wait 3-4 minutes and then we'll begin. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. So, as always, today we go from 12 to 3 p.m. Then 3 to 3:40 is the break. Thereafter 3:40 to 5:40, 5:40 to 6 p.m. is a break, and then 6 to 8 p.m. is part C. We have to cover interesting topics which we'll discuss once everyone's here. How to cover, one second, how to cover factual data in ancient medieval. To memorize name is difficult. The story is called 15 minutes rule. Ankit, simply there is no uh, if you want a solution for any subject, factual data. There's factual data in history, there's factual data in polity, there's factual data in geography, in economics, in science and technology. Everywhere there's factual data. But first things first is to remove a mental block that you can't remember it. That is the first most important thing. Second thing is that you have to create a certain type of regime or a practice and revision. uh, con- if you want to call it a regime, you want to call it a regime, basic process needs to be there. I call it 15 minutes rule. Very simple. Every morning, in the morning 15 minutes, you decide what basic facts you want to learn. For example, you want to learn 5 to 6 facts. That is your capacity. So in the morning, learn it, write it down once. Then throughout the day, try to memorize it. And if in the evening, 15 minutes, you are not able to remember it, you learn it again. And this process goes on. In the first cycle, you will learn 5, then you will learn 10, 15. Simple point is, this needs proper systematic coverage. There is no one in this world who can remember more than 5 days. The simple point is, there's a study, there's a proper Harvard University study that the maximum long-term memory of a person is 5 days. For example, I make you learn something today. After 5 days, you will start to forget it. To put it into a longer term, you need over those 5 days revision. So if you're able to create this cycle, beat flood, beat earthquake, beat anything, simple point is you have to do this in a disciplined way. For the next 200 days, if you are able to do the 15 minutes rule, give 30 minutes to history, ancient, medieval, art and culture, modern, all can be covered like this. It will be helpful. It will be helpful. And Tagdish is telling me that he's following this and it is very fruitful. I'm not making this up. I'll push it to you so that you can see it for yourself. One second. So yeah, this should be there. I follow this 1 week and I remember all this, but before it, I cannot remember. But it's very, very fruitful that way. So it will work. But due to some urgency, I am not able to attend Sunday part C. Yeah, Neil, no issues. Little bit of I will give you, but you were not able to see it Sunday. So what did you do between Monday to Friday? You had a whole week to cover it. Did you watch the video? Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Prabhu, you just email me about that issue. I'll get that sorted. It's a tech issue. We'll get that sorted. How to revise multiple subjects. Again, the thing is to have a timetable. Only if you have a timetable, you would have to slot in multiple subjects in a day. You would have to have put in this 3.3.5 hours. See, you are here sitting with me in weekend means that you don't have time in weekdays. That is the implied thing. Now, if you don't have if you don't have weekday time to go for these 3.5 hours, then that is why you're here. And very simply, you are putting Saturday, Sunday, so don't be unrealistic and think that you can go with me for 15 hours on Saturday and Sunday and then study something else. That is absurdity. So, what I want from you is that on Saturday, Sunday, you concentrate on the subject which you are doing, be it history, be it polity, be it geography. However, then Monday to Friday, then you need to have a certain timetable in which you are revising what I have done with you also and the other subjects which you've covered. If you are going to be a rudderless ship, you are going to just do something. You like polity too much, you become a constitutional lawyer. You like you are very very good in economics, you become an economist. This examination does not need a specialist. He need the examination wants a generalist, which is knows all the subjects itself. So the simple point is you have to have a timetable. You have to follow 15 minutes rule. 15 minutes rule can be true for any subject, just that you have to add more 15 minutes. You cannot take it out of the history itself. History has to be given 20 30 minutes, 15 morning, 15 evening, and thereafter you will automatically remember everything after a certain point. It's a process. You are not a supercomputer, and that too, supercomputers also have a capacity. So unrealistic timetables are one, the first issue. Second is that most of you, what you do is that you just start in the wrong time. So what is going to happen is you will say that I will cover all subjects right now, I will not revise anything. And then just 3 months before the examination, I will cover everything. Then that is not possible. Understand this point. That is not possible because that is not the way the human mind works. UPSC needs what we call as movement in gears slowly, first to second, second to third, second, in the sense that it's not a sprint, it's a marathon. If you're exhausting yourself in the first six, last six is going to be useless. If you're sitting for 6 months and then expect to cover 6 months, not going to happen. Have to make sure that you do it in a disciplined way, systematic way over a period of time. So I hope that I've been able to answer your question that how do we go about it. You need to create a realistic timetable. It can't be that you're getting up at 4 and then sleeping at 2, then you're giving only 2 hours sleep. You will die like that. That is a guarantee I can give you. If you're compromising on sleep less than 6 hours, then most probably you are putting yourself into a zone after which you will start to blank out. That is also going to happen. So have to realistically make a timetable. See, before the examination, 1 month you sleep for 4 hours, that makes sense. But for 1 year, if you're only sleeping for 4 hours, that is circadian cycle, again, Nobel Prize winning research, you will most probably start to blank out. The way something moves from your RAM to ROM or from your short-term memory to long-term memory is when you sleep. Because when you sleep, things rewire. You want to sleep in the day 2 hours and in the night 4 hours, that is okay with me, but 6 to 7 hours is needed. So my basic point is pace yourself. If you will not pace yourself, either you will burn out in the beginning or burn out in the end. You have to pace yourself. You have 100% energy. How do you use that energy matters. That is the only point here. You have 100%, the next person has 100%. Nobody has extraordinarily 110% capacity. Everybody has 100% energy. It's about how you use it in that sense. Weekday use it in a different way, weekends use it in a different way. Simple point is need a certain plan. That's the point. You have to plan. That is it. Will it help to record chapters in own voice? Listen again and again. Sure, Prabhu, if you have the time. If you're 20, 25, 26, you record everything in your voice and that's not an issue. But a 20, 24%, I know these tricks are quite a lot available across the board in different areas. I've seen those YouTube videos also. They will say that record everything. Now for recording 50 pages, you need 3 hours. Can you waste those 3 hours? That's the point. That is the basic point. Simple point is for a 20-24%, the clock is ticking. For 2025, 26, they say that you go Sirsasana, you do yoga to remember better, you do it. But for a person whose examination is coming next year, you have to now start to step up. That's the basic point. Right now, it's the period of doing mains things and starting to come into prelims. After February, you have to go into prelims board. That's separate issue altogether. But please don't waste time. What works for me will not work for you. What will work for you will not work for me. Everybody is different. Everybody's capacity is different. Clear, everyone? I've seen your book on LinkedIn for night. Yes, Prabhu, I'll talk about it. See, by end of this month, and I'll show you the cover page maybe next time. By end of this month, there will be a book for UGC Net history. But the beauty of that book is it has ancient, medieval, modern in it, and it is equally relevant for UPSC. So don't worry about that. Once it is out, I will give you the Amazon Flipkart link. Don't worry. Over and above that, I will show you in the next session itself. So don't worry about that. That is in just the last stage. Last 5% most probably has already gone into printing. Once it is available, I will tell you that. Don't worry about that. Okay. So don't have to worry. Just give me this month before your examination. At least 6 months you will have with that book. That book has been written both in different levels, from UGC Net to, which is assistant professor examination, to UPSC. Basically, UGC Net is much bigger and UPSC is a subset. So if you cover that book, you automatically cover the smaller part, which is basically UPSC. So we'll talk about that. PCS examination is in 30 days. Month, sir, I have my state PCS exam this month on 30th. How I manage? Pratik, what is your level of preparation? Who wrote this book? Me. I am the author of that book. Pratik, what is the status of exam? I have GS completed. Now that is also a very vague statement. If I say that your preparation is 100%, how much percentage it is? 50%. Now that is a better. And now you have it on 30th. Now 20 days you want me to cover 50%. Consolidate what you've done. Which PCS is this? Which state PCS is this? I'll take 1 more minute and then I'll start. I'm just waiting for you to join in. PPSC, okay. Shushmita, I'll tell you how to get it. Well, let it be available in the market. It is in printing stage. I'll tell you how to get it. Don't worry. BPSC, I thought BPSC. So now the point is BPSC, you don't have time that ways. So consolidate in whatever you have. Sridevi, that's a totally separate thing. It's between you and me, not part of what you've. It's something which I am doing personally, so that's a separate issue altogether. You would have to buy it yourself, right? Okay, can I start, everyone? Will this lecture help me cover BPSC history syllabus? Aman is asking this question. Can anybody answer him? Obviously, history doesn't change for any examination. So you do this MPSC, BPSC, Jammu and Kashmir, anything. Don't worry about that. Okay. You can do that also, Takdis. Yes, Kashish. Last 20 days, don't do current affairs. Okay. Now, we were discussing the first battle of Panipat, and the last week we covered 2 to 3 very important things. And the first thing which we covered was, why was Babur sitting in Kabul? Why did Daulat Khan Lodi call Babur? Over and above that, we also saw how he used the Tuluguma technique, the Rumi technique, to win over Ibrahim Lodi, who had a much smaller army, a much bigger army than Babur. But Babur's effective use of gunpowder, along with the effective use of what we call as his techniques of warfare, he was able to win over Ibrahim Lodi. And thereafter, he went into a spree from First Battle of Panipat to Khanwa to Chanderi to Ghaggar, from Rana Sanga to Medni Rai to the what we call as Lodis, who whatever was left in the Bengal sector. He was able to expand very quickly. Now, the last thing which we discussed, if you remember last week, was that why are they called Mughals? And I told you they are basically Timurids. They call themselves Timurids. They never call themselves Mongols. And the word Mongol became Mughal and then became Mughal. It's a British misinterpretation of history, like a lot of things in medieval India generally. Now, today's agenda is very straightforward. Very, very straightforward. In Mughal India, there are two parts. One is political history, which is who is Babur, Humayun, Sher Shah Suri, Akbar, Jahangir, Shah Jahan, and Aurangzeb. And then there are multiple important smaller topics. For example, Mansabdari. Standard question which comes. Revenue administration. Thereafter, you have the concept of Rajput policy. Then you have Akbar's religious policy. And then you have decline of Mughals. These are topics which basically are subsets, but the questions come from this area more and less from political history. But problem is you can't understand the rule or you can't understand the chronology if I don't go through political history. So the first point is very simple. This is the two basic agendas for today. And if you know me, you would understand that we will obviously go over this in a much quicker fashion, because here it's just facts and random stories which I will tell you. But Mansabdari, revenue administration, Rajput policy, religious policy, and decline is something. Decline, if you've done modern India midway, you would know that basically decline is something which crosses over into modern India also and here also. But simple point is I will do in all detail this area. Because if you understand Mansabdari, revenue administration, Rajput policy, religious policy, most of your questions will be done. And here, this will give you context. Once we've covered these two sections, our Mughal India is over. This is Mughal part 1 and this is Mughal part 2. And if we have the time today, I will also introduce Sikhism to you. Sikhism, Marathas, and Bhakti Sufi is what is left. And tomorrow we enter into, after doing previous year questions also, we will enter art and culture. Now, my biggest request to everybody who is here, who's watching this video later also, in art and culture, I would request, and if it is not possible, okay, but I would request that be live with me. Because if you will be live with me, it will give you a better understanding, because art and culture, I want your level to be higher, because that is both mains and prelims, and generally it has to be much more interactive. It's more visual, it's more interactive. We will do a lot of different activities. You'll draw with me and you will actually learn in class and revise in the end itself. So very simply, my agenda in art and culture is to make you understand and to ratify, because again, there's a major misnomer about art and culture that it's all ratification. No, 60% is understanding, 40% is ratification. So my basic urge to everybody is going to be this week from tomorrow, maybe after the first session, part A, and next 2 weeks, which is 16th, 17th, 23rd, and 24th. Please try to be live with me for art and culture. If you've been watching this video later, okay, it makes sense. But I would now expect you to be live with me. That will help you better. I'm already telling you this as a basic request. If you can't do it, that is your issue. And then thereafter, the level of understanding can vary according to what it is. If we are clear with regards to today's agenda, and if you're able to reach Sikhism, because my agenda is to complete Mughal properly, then can I start for today's lecture? And I hope that basically you remember what we did last week, but I'll give you a basic recap of that also. And then we will discuss Humayun, which is the most important person for us in that regard. Okay, great. Perfect like this. Now, when we talk about what's Mughal part 1 and part 2, Vivek, you joined right now. just right now. I know you're. This is very very bad, very bad. 20 minutes later, and then you're asking me something. This is the agenda for today, so that you don't get distracted and further get distracted more. First, join on time. Second is part one, part two. This is the agenda what we covered today in that regard. This is the more important part. This is the less important part. Okay. Now, last week we very simply did a graphical understanding or map based understanding of how things were moving in Central Asia. And we saw that the Timuridian Empire split up into three parts. The Ottomans, Safavids, and the Uzbeks became a problem for the sons of Timur and his grandsons of Timur in that regard. And therefore, Babur was sitting in Kabul because he was running away from the Uzbeks. He was sitting in Kabul because he was running away from Uzbeks. In North India, on the other hand, the situation was that you had the Lodhis here with Daulat Khan Lodhi as the governor of Punjab and Ibrahim Lodi as the main ruler. Ibrahim Lodi was not very, very good with his nobles, and that did not sit well with the Afghans generally. And Daulat Khan Lodi was inclined to call Babur to defeat Ibrahim Lodi and go back. Rana Sanga helped him. However, as soon as Babur entered on the invitation, Rana Sanga took his basic invitation out because he understood that Babur was actually not what they were thinking. Thereafter, Babur will enter, and there will be the first battle of Panipat. First battle of Panipat, Babur had a much numerically lower army. However, the point was that he had better techniques, and Babur did not introduce gunpowder into India. That was known to Vijayanagara and Bahmani. However, he used it for the first time in an effective manner through cannons, through topes in the first battle of Panipat, changing the political history and the course of military history in India generally. Further, what we saw, once Babur got Delhi, he moved to the what we call as the western sector, took Rana Sanga, then took Medni Rai and consolidated this whole sector, then moved further towards the east, and last he defeated at the near the river Ghaggar, which is the battle of Ghaggar itself, where he defeated under Mahmud Lodi the last of what was left of the Lodis in the West Bengal sector and the Bengal sector, consolidating more or less North India in the process of doing it. And Babur, in that regard, has basically three basic contributions. First, using gunpowder effectively, consolidation of North India, further introducing new techniques of what we call as a rule, and more than that, what we call as military techniques, and simply the cultural part of his entrance will be discussed when we will discuss art and culture. Everything about their culture, about their architectural contributions, we will discuss separately. This is basically where we stopped vis-a-vis discussing Mughal India, and what I showed you in the end was this very important painting which shows everybody in the genealogy or the what we call family of Timur who were related to the Mughals, with Timur in the middle, great great grandfather, grandfather, great grandfather, father Abu Said, and then Babur, Humayun, Akbar. Thereafter, you have Jahangir, Shah Jahan, Aurangzeb. This painting was to just to give you reference of the Mughals in India generally, and to emphasize on the point that they are not Timurs, they are not Mughals, but they are very simply Timurs, because mother side they are Mongols, father side they are Timur. Therefore, they call themselves Timurid. Timurid. So, Babur's main contribution, Ibrahim Lodi, Rana Sanga, and defeating the what we call as Rajput Confederacy in Chanderi, and by 1529 he had defeated the Lodhis, whatever was left in the Bengal sector. Are we all clear with regards to this? Then I talk about the next set of rulers. Can we move forward in the story? Come on. Whoever was not there last week, I hope this should be enough to give you an understanding. Aryan, don't write it in doubt section, write it in the chat and I'll be able to see it. I want everybody's yes or no, because then only I move forward. Yes, no, makes sense. Are we all on the same page with regards to that? Yes, Neil, perfect. Okay, great. Now, see, this genealogy, more or less everybody knows. Genealogy is the sequence of rulers. Everybody knows because of popular imagination, misuse, and use of history generally. First ruler Babur, second ruler Humayun. Then comes an interganam period where Sher Suri will defeat Humayun. He's not a Mughal, he's basically an Afghan again. We'll talk about what is the context. And then comes the third and the most important ruler of the Mughals who consolidated India. He is basically the Alauddin Khilji of the Mughal Empire. Thereafter, his son Jahangir, Shah Jahan, and Aurangzeb. Aurangzeb, everybody knows generally for good or bad reasons. Shah Jahan, everybody knows because of his Taj Mahal and his Red Fort generally. Jahangir for his paintings, Akbar for his Rajput religious policy along with Mansabdari, Humayun generally for being defeated by Sher Shah. This should not be a very difficult task. This should be on your fingertips because this will help you in art and culture generally. Now, let's talk about now Humayun. Before we do that, remember PKCG, Panipat, Khanwa, Chanderi, and Ghaggar. Now, Babar is dead. Babar is dead. Now, please listen to me. Now I'm going into the next set of political history. We'll take 1.5 hours or maximum 2 hours to do political history. It's not that dense, and I don't want to go into that much detail. I want to reach revenue administration, but in between, Sher Shah is important for us. Now, Babar is dead. Now, Timur did a mistake. What was Timur's mistake before he died? What did he do to his empire? What did he do to his empire? Very good. He divided the empire amongst his sons. This is a Mongolian Timurid tradition to divide the empire into his sons, and that only weakens the empire. That is why the Ottomans were able to take it. That is why the Safavids were able to take it. That is why the Uzbeks were able to take it. So, very simply, Babar had 4 sons, and you have Humayun, you have Hindal, you have Askari, and you have Kamran. So, Babar did not learn from his great grandfather's mistake, and he also did the same mistake, which is that he said that whatever I have taken in North India, I divide it amongst my sons, which is Humayun, Hindal, Askari, and Kamran. To Humayun, he gave the Agra and Doab sector. To Hindal, he gave the Mewat sector, which is basically nothing but Rajasthan. To Askari, he gave Rohilkhand. And to Kamran, he gave Kandahar and Kabul, basically the Afghanistan-Pakistan sector. Now, very simply, the problem in dividing an empire like this is that, firstly, there are 3 problems. The empire is already not stable. Empire is not stable. Second is that this means there will be competition amongst brothers. And third is that the Lodis or Afghans were not fully destroyed. Which means that when you start to do something like this, there is a lot of internal conflict which starts to develop. And when such internal conflict starts to develop, Humayun, Hindal, and Kamran, Askari was not that ambitious, but Hindal and Kamran became very, very anti-Humayun. So basically, Kamran and Hindal versus Humayun was now the issue which was developing in the Mughal Empire generally. Now the problem is that if the Afghans had been fully subdued, this internal conflict would not have mattered. But whilst the enemy is regrouping, they are internally fighting, is not good for any empire. So Babar was the first and last Mughal emperor to follow the Timurid tradition or the Mongolian tradition, because Humayun won't, Akbar won't, Shahjahan won't, and neither will Jahangir or Aurangzeb, because they will learn from Babur's mistake, because it is Babur's mistake of following something which had weakened his great grandfather's empire. He is doing the same in India also. And this will get complicated because whilst it is Humayun versus Kamran and Hindal, the problem is that the Afghans, or what we call as the Lodis, were now regrouping under a very strategic, good administrator and a very powerful ruler in that sector. His name was Sher Shah Suri, sometimes also called Sher Khan. But the simple point is, Sher Shah Suri knew the Bengal sector very well. His father was given a small Ikta Jagir type thing in that area. He understood revenue administration very well. He had a very good understanding of the terrain also. And he knew how the monsoons worked in this sector when the rivers used to become big and small. So he has local knowledge quite a lot. And on the other hand, Humayun is a little bit oblivious and a little bit what we call as not fully politically oriented. And now what Babur built, now it became Sher Shah Suri versus Humayun. And now basically Humayun does not have the support of his brothers in the first war. He will have it in the second war. But now Sher Shah Suri looks towards Agra and the most important fertile region, which is the Doab region. Now, if you have an unstable empire, would you do construction activities? When the empire is unstable, whatever you want to call it, would you do construction activities? No. But Humayun did it. He started to develop what we today call in Delhi as the Purana Killa. And his orientation was that he loved books. Humayun had a library. Humayun used to travel with 3,000 books. And he loved his books quite a lot. His orientation, a little bit problematic. He also loved something which was not good for him, which is alcohol and opium. So therefore, mostly intoxicated. So he did not have the orientation, but his brothers were worse than him. In that regard, Kamran and Hindal are also not of no purpose. They are all the same in that regard. Now, Sher Shah Suri is much more serious, much better administrator. So what will happen is that in 1539, for the first time, the backstory is that Humayun knew the importance of Sher Shah Suri and he tried to besiege a fort in Bengal, but it took him 6 months to do it, and that weakened his army itself. And Sher Shah Suri just waited for Humayun to become weak. And in 1539, at the Battle of Chausa, Sher Shah Suri and Humayun will meet. Sher Shah Suri and Humayun will meet. And therefore, this was the first challenge which came from internally from the Lodis in order to defeat Humayun in that regard. In this period, the Chausa sector, which is modern day, what we call as Eastern UP Bengal sector, Bihar Bengal sector, Chausa, the problem was that it was the rainy season, it was a monsoon season. So Humayun did not know how to actually manage the volume of the Ganga or the Yamuna or all the rivers which are there in that sector. But Sher Shah Suri knew how to. At the Battle of Chausa, Sher Shah Suri defeated Humayun. And what saved Humayun, because Sher Shah Suri was most probably going to kill Humayun, what saved Humayun was actually the Ganga river. What happened was that in the chaos of the battlefield, Humayun fell into the Ganga river and was washed away towards Agra. Rather than going into the hands of Sher Shah, he was basically saved by the Ganga itself. So at the Battle of Chausa, the first major defeat is given to Humayun. But now Humayun goes back to Agra. He says to Kamran and Hindal that Sher Shah Suri is powerful. However, Kamran still believes that he is a better administrator. So there's no full unity, but though they come together, still not full unity. Now, after Chausa, the next battle will be at Kannauj. Again, Sher Shah Suri will fight Humayun. And in this battle, it is believed that fully, it was Humayun's luck that he was fully defeated, however, was able to run away from the battlefield. He was able to run away with his wife, but Sher Shah Suri fully defeated Humayun in this battle, and therefore Kannauj, in a way, ended Timurid or Mughal rule, because now Sher Shah Suri reached Agra and established what we call as the Suri dynasty, which ruled between 1540 to 1555. For 15 years, Sher Shah Suri and his son Sikandar Suri were the ones who ruled. Now, Humayun's story is that he was again able to escape. Somehow he was again able to escape. His wife was also was basically in the 2 to 3, 5 kilometers away from the battlefield itself. She was pregnant with Akbar at this point of time, Hamida Bano Begum, and they were able to go back, move towards Delhi. But Kamran used this moment to capture power in Delhi itself. They had to then move to Amarkot, which is in the Rajput sector. At Amarkot, Chausa is 1539, this is 1540. I'll write it down, don't worry. At Amarkot, Akbar will be born, and his relationship with the Rajputs will start here itself, because he was born in a Rajput palace itself. However, as soon as Akbar is born, Kamran will capture Akbar, but not kill Akbar in that regard. He will basically become like a you can't call him a slave, but a captive of Kamran. And Humayun and his wife Hamida Bano Begum will then cross over from the Mughal Empire and go to the Safavid Empire and go and find refuge in Iran. And in Iran, he will thereafter recoup for 15 years. And finally, after in 1545, when Sher Shah Suri will die and his son will rule between 1545 to 1555, in 1555, Humayun will come back. And when he will come back, he will meet Sher Shah Suri's son in what we call as Sarhind. In Sarhind, and in the Battle of Sarhind, Sher Shah Suri's son, Sikandar Suri, will be defeated by Humayun. And in 1555, after the Battle of Sarhind, Humayun will take back the empire, take back his son Akbar. But within 6 months of ruling or bringing back the empire itself, one day, having a little bit of too much of intoxication, he will fall from his library and break his neck and die. So Humayun's period is basically only first 10 years, then 15 years of rule of Sher Shah Suri, and then 6 months of rule of Humayun itself. I'll write the battles down at one place, because those can come in the examination generally. But this is the story of Humayun, that he was holding, had issues with his brothers. Thereafter, Sher Shah Suri defeated at Chausa, Kannauj, then ran away to the Iran sector, came back in 1555, took his empire back, died in 6 months, and thereafter Akbar became the ruler when he was at Kalanur. So, just to repeat this whole story and then giving you everything, Humayun succeeded Babur in December of 1530 at the age of 23. He had to grapple with a number of issues. Afghans were not fully subdued. They were still basically thinking that they can remove the Mughals. Babur also followed the worst tradition possible, which is partitioning the empire amongst the sons. And therefore, Humayun and Kamran became the two major actors here. But Humayun, Askari, Kamran, Hindal are the four brothers in that regard. Thereafter, at Chausa, Humayun was defeated for the first time by Sher Shah Suri, most comprehensively by Sher Shah Suri at Kannauj, and the Suri dynasty will be found. After the lapse of 15 years, Humayun will recapture the empire by defeating Sikandar Suri, at the Battle of Sirhind and ruled only for 6 months. What does the NCRT, erstwhile NCRT chapter tell us? Unfortunately, this chapter was removed for some reason, but I still have the major highlights out of it. First and foremost, it talks about how Kamran and Humayun's competition allowed Afghans to recoup, Sher Khan, Sher Shah Suri's Chausa and Kannauj, and how he fled to Iran. Here, he was given refuge by Safavid Shah, and he was able to capture back Delhi by 1555. This is the basic story of Humayun. Let me write all the battles down in one place. Did this make sense? Don't have to remember the story in that regard. You just have to know what is the basic timeline in the way we are going about. Who is Sher Shah Suri? Who is Humayun? Did this make sense? 1%, 10%, whatever it may be. What comes in the examination, I'm writing it down for you in the PPT. Okay. Okay. You have 1526, 1527, 1528, 1529, 1539, 1540, 1555, 1556. 1556 is not, I've not told you about it, but I'm writing it here only. This is called First Battle of Panipat. This is Khanwa. This is Chanderi. This is Ghagra or Ghagar. Then this is Chausa, Kannauj. You have Sirhind, and Second Battle of Panipat. This is all Babar. This is all Humayun. And this is Akbar. This is against Ibrahim Lodi. This is against Rana Sanga. This is against Medini Rai. This is against Lodis. This is Humayun versus Sher Shah Suri. And he wins this too. This is Humayun versus Sikandar Suri. And this is Akbar versus Hemu, which we will discuss, or Hemchandra. PKCG Chauka Sar Pani. PKCG Chauka Sar Pani. This is the acronym. This is the way you learn. Can you remember this slide? Because this is where the factual questions come from. Nobody's asking you the story of how he was defeated. Can we remember this slide? Basic slide. 26, 27, 28, 29. Have to remember the year, but more than that, chronology will help. Then 39, 40, 55, 56. First, second battle, and Chausa, Kannauj, Sirhind. Look at it, because thereafter I will test your knowledge also with regards to this. I will test your knowledge with regards to this. So look at it once generally. Try to remember this. PKCG, Chauka, Sarpani. Right? Okay. Now Humayun comes back, wins over Sikandar Suri, and then he's able to consolidate whatever it is. But as I said, he has an unexpected death by falling from his library. And now his son, who's basically a minor, he becomes the ruler. Under Humayun, and when Humayun is able to take back the empire, this is maximum range which the Mughal Empire has. But the further expansion will happen under his son. Now, before I talk about Sher Shah Suri, because that is important, we know that he was born when he was retreating from Bikaner at Amarkot. And in 1542, Akbar was born. He was captured by Kamran, but he was kept unharmed under his basic understanding. And when Humayun will take back Kandahar, Humayun and Akbar will be reunited again. But when Humayun will die, Akbar will be at Kalanur as a very, very, very small child, fighting the Afghans again, and he will be crowned as the emperor of Mughal India, whatever it may have been, in 1556 at the age of 13 years, 4 months. Very maximum 14 years in that regard. 13 years, he became the ruler. Now, Akbar's story, I will take forward, but I want to talk about Sher Shah Suri because there's a very important contribution which Sher Shah Suri did, and that allowed Akbar. Akbar's major contributions are actually on building what Sher Shah Suri did. So I've now given you basic chronology. Akbar, which is Babar, Humayun, Akbar. Akbar becoming ruler in 1556, and the period between 1540 to 1555 I want to discuss. Till this point, everybody is with me. Nobody has any issue because I want to discuss this period of Suri dynasty, because multiple important contributions of Sher Shah Suri. Can we discuss it? Till this point, anybody has any issue? Ajay, PPT plus NCRT is necessary. R.S. Sharma only once you've covered PPT plus NCRT. Time crunch means that you don't have time for 2024, I think. Right? Or you're talking about some other examination. Now, 2024. You don't have time crunch. Don't create this in your mind that you have time crunch. Still September. If you cover everything in systematic way by December, you'll be able to manage everything. So there's no time crunch. Don't be in perpetual state of calamity like this. What you will do is that in time crunch, you will start to leave things and thereafter you will mess up your attempt. So there's no time crunch right now. Just cover what you need to cover. Unnecessary things as it is, I don't teach. I don't have a habit of teaching which is something which is totally unnecessary. Which, because you will see teachers talking about history of Humayun like the question comes on Humayun only, or a history of Akbar or Shah Jahan or Jahangir. They will go into Noor Jahan so much that they only have to marry Noor Jahan. But I am not going to waste time like that. So don't worry about that. I will only give you facts which are important. PPT plus NCRT is true for every topic or every subject. R.S. Sharma, Satish Chandra is when you generally have to read something as a form of revision. So don't create pressure when there is no pressure. Getting my point, Ajay? Okay. Now, we have to discuss Suri period 1540, 1555, which is this period of 15 years. Now, Sher Shah Suri, he had multiple contributions. Ajay, make sense or not? Now, what are the contributions of Sher Shah Suri? First thing is that he restored law and order in the North Indian sector, made the zamindars pay the revenue, and reduced their influence. The very important point, because Humayun lacked this type of orientation. Humayun, whoever he may have been, was not a good administrator. So in a way, India needed Sher Shah Suri, because if it was left to Humayun, he would have just built forts. And his problem was that even after getting defeated at Chausa, he went back and completed Purana Kila. He did not understand that Sheshasuri was so powerful. So he has an orientation problem. So restored law and order in the North Indian sector, made the zamindars pay revenue and reduced their influence in that sector itself. This was to basically stabilize the empire. This is for stability. Because if there is no stability, there will be problem. Now, the next important point was that Sheshasuri knew that revenue is important. So he did two things. First is that he concentrated on trade and he concentrated on land revenue. These are the two basic things along with administration. So stability wise, he knew that you need to restore the empire in the way it should be, which is that law and order should be perfect. But then he knew that revenue was important. And revenue could only come from two areas, trade and land revenue. So he will now take it upon himself to sort out these two things. So let's now discuss what he did for trade. In trade, Sheshasuri's contribution is considered to be one of the most important, in the sense that he did here 5 to 6 very important changes. First is that he restored and built restored and built important trade routes. And one of the most important trade routes which he was able to build is called the Grand Trunk Road, which is today called GT Karnal Road. And the Grand Trunk Road used to connect Lahore to Bengal, and basically it used to connect the west to the east, thereby making sure that the movement of from west to east was good enough. He further did one thing, which is that he connected Multan and Lahore with Gujarat. So both east and west coast were connected in that regard. So first is to connect the basically Uttar Path and revive the Dakshin Path in that regard, and very simply connect the empire in a right way, in the perfect way possible. Thereafter, he did one more very important thing, which was he built sarais every 8 kilometers for traders to rest and keep their goods safe. The sarais basically are hotels, if you want to see it, or are called inns. And the best testament of Sheshasuri's legacy is in the names of a lot of things which are there in India today. For example, in Delhi, there's something called Ber Sarai, Lado Sarai. Before Deen Dayal Upadhyay renaming happened, Mughal Sarai. You have Begusarai. These Sarai which you see word was basically Sheshasuri creating inns around which towns developed. So Ber Sarai became a very big area. Lado Sarai became a very big area. Mughal Sarai became a very big area. So these names which have sarais in the end are basically the sarais which Sheshasuri developed. And then cities and towns developed around it. These inns were divided for Muslims and Hindus separately. Goods were given a lot of safe custody. Further, they were allowed to rest there for as much time as they want, so that they could move every 8 kilometers quickly in an efficient way. So this allows for goods movement without issues, which is a very good thing. He had already brought in law and order under control. Now the next thing which he did to again foster trade was that multiple taxes and tolls were cancelled, and only taxes were collected only at two places: Multan in west and Sikri Gully in east, which is in Bengal. So once you've given tax at Sikri Gully or at Multan, you don't have to pay tax across the empire itself. You pay tax twice: once when you're entering the Suri Empire and when you're selling it. So this is like basically like excise duty. When you're putting in any form of duty, this is the excise duty which is applied, and this will be applied only once. Previously, every different zamindar, every different smaller areas within the empire were very simply, there were multiple taxes, multiple points of taxation, and therefore that was delaying everything. So this is basically bringing everything together. Pay tax once when you enter, pay second tax when you sell it. Other than that, you don't have to do it. This again makes trade better. And last but not the least, he also made sure that after Multan, Sikri Gali, multiple taxes and tolls have been cancelled, he is able to foster internal and external trade by law and order, which is to keep the empire as stable as possible. So very simply, just to read this out to you also, let's talk about Shesha Suri. Shesha Suri did multiple things in a way to consolidate everything. He brought in law and order control through the length and breadth of the empire. He dealt sternly with the robbers and dacoits and zamindars who were disobeying the government itself. He paid a lot of attention in fostering trade and commerce and communications. He revived the old imperial roads, the Grand Trunk Road, which connected the Indus River to Sonargaon in Bengal, and Agra, Jodhpur, and Chittor was linked to the Gujarat ports. Very simply, internally connecting everything. Then he built the third road between Lahore to Multan, and then Multan to go towards Gujarat. For convenience of travelers, Sher Shah built sarais at the distance of every 8 kilometers or two coasts for these roads itself. Sarais were fortified lodgings or inns where travelers could pass the night and keep their goods in safe custody. Separate lodging for Hindus and Muslims was provided. In the whole empire itself, custom duty was only to be paid at two places: one in Bengal, the other one outside Multan. In the Bengal Bihar, Sikri Gali, and Multan in the west itself. No one was allowed to levy custom duty and taxes or ferries down anywhere else. Duty was to be only paid the second time when you were selling that good. Now, this is the basic thing which he did for trade. Anybody has any issue with regards to trade or how he contributed trade? Trade, anybody has any issue? Come on, this is important. Sikri Gali is Bengal. No issues. Okay. Now, the other thing which he did was in administration and revenue administration. Now, how he divided the empire was very simple. You have the village. You have the village. Then he divided into Pargana and then into Sarkar. This is the district level. This is the province level. But he had a very interesting thing, an interesting way of looking at it. He was the first person to divide the empire administration according to responsibilities and division of power, in a way that at the village level you are there, multiple villages become pargana. Now the pargana is under two officers, munsif and shikdar. So you have shikdar and munsif. This is a very important division because he is differentiating between revenue administration and general administration. Can anybody tell me what would be the modern day example of a shikdar? Modern day example of shikdar. Modern day example of shikdar would be DM. Then what will be a munsif? Very good. DC. When you will become an IAS officer, you can get two types of positions. Either a district magistrate or district collector. People tend to say everybody is a collector, but if that there's a difference between these two. District magistrate does general administration. So when the police has to get a magistrate's signature, it is the DM who signs. But when you will become the DC, you are not the head of general administration. You are the head of revenue administration of the district. So all the money which comes, you would have to sign as a district collector. This division, which is DMDC division, which is general and revenue administration division, is very, very significant. What does it prevent? What does it prevent? By dividing this power, what does it prevent? Corruption. But yes, Samishta, very good. Concentration of power. Concentration of power. Why? Because if the same person has revenue and general, he can become a local power. However, that is not the case what he follows. He rather divides the two in such a way that nobody has revenue and general administration together. So the munsif cannot become a local power center in himself, and the shikdar cannot become powerful in himself. This is very interesting that way. Very, very significant that way. So this is the way he does it at the Pargana level. At the Sarkar level also, there is division. Above the Shikdar, he has what is called the Shikdar A Shikdaran. Shikdar A Shikdaran. 1 second. Shikdar A Shikdaran or Faujdar. And you have Munsif A Munsifan. Here you have Munsif A Munsifan. Munsifan. Now this is a very interesting structure, wherein you have above the DC also a revenue secretary, and above the DM also you have a secretary, wherein very simply you have a whole system of check and balance, wherein there is one general administration vertical, there is one revenue administration vertical. This is very, very significant because we had never seen such thing previously, also called Faujdar sometimes. The simple point is we have never seen this type of very, what we call as interesting division of power. Division of power was never known, and not even Ashoka divided revenue and general administration separately. Here, from the district level itself, power is not concentrated in one person, but is divided into two people. This is a very important administrative division. Anybody has any issue here? Because thereafter I go into a discussion. That discussion is going to be very significant, because if you understand that, then you will understand Akbar also. Anybody has any issue till this point? Okay. Now, let's talk about Shesha Suri's last major contribution. Now, revenue administration was always of something very, very interesting to Shesha. Shesha was always interested. Now, Shikdara is which position? Shikdara would be, you have above DM, you would have the Home Secretary that way. Home Secretary and Revenue Secretary that way. Okay. Revenue Administration, Shesha Suri. Now, when we talk about Shesha Suri, Revenue Administration, he was always interested in this. Now, before Sher Shah, the following system is like this. Now, you have to brainstorm with me. Now, pay attention. There are two plots. Farmer A, farmer B. He grows wheat, he grows rice. First question: do wheat and rice sell at the same price in the market? No? Okay, very good. So, he produces 10 kgs. Let's make it 12 kgs. He also produces 12 kgs. Now, rate at which it is sold at the market, wheat is going for 5 rupees and rice is going for 10 rupees. So the total income of this person is going to be how much? Wheat total income is going to be how much? 60. Very good. And the total income of rice is going to be 120. Very good. Rupees 120. Perfect. Total. Now the state comes. For example, state Shesha Suri comes. Before Shesha Suri, Humayun comes. He says that the farmer has to pay 1/3 of the produce to the state, and I want that in rupees or in cash. So both pay 1/3. Both pay 1/3, which means that he is also paying 4 kgs. He is also paying 4 kgs. But now, what the state says is that from produce to cash, there will be conversion, but all crops are converted on same rate. For example, rupees 8. Or we can keep it rupees 6 or 7. We can keep it at 7. So how much does the farmer A give to the state? How much does this farmer A give to the state? 28 rupees. And how much does the second farmer give? Also 28 rupees. Now pay attention. Who is at a disadvantage here? A or B? A. Because if I look at his revenue and his total income, it is a very big amount. Close to 1/3 of his total revenue, total income is going as revenue. If I look at these two, it is basically not even the first 20% of his income or 30% of his income maximum, but B gains more because the rate is fixed for everything. If I produce lady finger, if I produce any crop, wheat, barley, millet, anything, the rate does not change. This is called a fixed crop rate. The crop is fixed and the formula is very simple. Formula is 1/3 of produce into fixed crop rate. Now tell me one thing. Is this system efficient and just to the peasants, or does it have problems? Does it have problems? Yes or no? Very simply, yes, it does. It is problematic for the peasants who are producing a certain crop, and Sher Shah Suri was able to see this. Sher Shah Suri was able to see this, and he was the first person. He was the first person under Sher Shah. Under Sher Shah, the most interesting thing happens, which is that he introduces differential crop rate system, which he used to call the term ray. Now imagine the same situation, same exact CSAT question: A, B, wheat, rice, 10 kgs, 10, no, we had 12, right? 12 kgs, 12 kgs, 12 kgs. So rate was in the market rupees 5 and rupees 10 for wheat and rice. And if 12 kgs, 12 kgs, his income was 120 rupees, his income was rupees 60. Now, what is the rate at which it will be done? 1/3, 1/3. So both are giving 4 kgs. Now, in the old system, the rate was fixed as 7 rupees everything. But Sher Shah used to issue a differential rate for every crop, wherein he said that if it is wheat, conversion will be at rupees 4, and if it is rice, it will be rupees 8. So now he is paying rupees 4 and he is paying rupees 8. So now he is paying rupees 16 and he is paying 32 rupees. This is the difference. He is not converting or taxing each crop on the same rate. This is called RAY, Central Crop Rate, listed by Sher Shah. So the formula becomes 1/3 into produce into ray. Very simple. Exactly same situation. He was paying 28, he was paying 28. But the problem was it was unjust. Out of 60, he was paying 28. Out of 120, he was paying 28. This is called fixed crop rate. Everybody, see, state is going to ask a share in parts, which is 1/3 half. But the state does not want it in wheat. It wants it in money, rupiah. How does it convert it? What rate do you convert your produce into cash? That is what is called crop rate. Fixed crop rate was something which was followed for centuries, wherein same rate was for every crop. Did not matter at what cost did it sell at the market price. Basically, market price was never taken into consideration. Here, Sher Shah Suri just changes one thing. He till this point remains the same, which is that we want 1/3. But he says that I will take into account what is expensive and what is cheap, and I will tax according to that also. I will not firstly put one of the farmers at a disadvantage. At the same point of time, I will tax at a differential rate. Wherein 4 kgs, what does it say? And wheat, how much it is selling? How much is rice selling for? He's taking market rate into account. This is the same what we do in income tax. Don't we do it this in income tax? In income tax in India, do you tax everybody at the same rate? If I earn 5 lakh, 10 lakh, 15 lakh, 50 lakh, am I taxed at the same rate? No. I'm taxed lower when I'm in a lower income, and I'm taxed higher when I'm in a higher income. Think of it like this, that if you are producing a crop which gives you more money, that state will take more money away from you, because he will not put the tax at the same time, same rate itself. There's a process. This was calculated, I will tell you. But the same simple point is, Ray is differential crop rate for every crop which was listed by Shersha every season. If this is making sense, I'll tell you how this whole system worked. I've only given you the concept right now. Ray, different rates for different crops, differential rate. Is this clear? Come on, everybody has to say yes or no. Please have to be clear about this. Technical part, Akbar will change something in this, so you need to understand this equally in the most comprehensive way possible. Yes. Now, how did this system work? Very simple system. Very straightforward system. See, how did it work? Sher Shah appointed an officer, and that officer's name was Kanungo. Kanungo. What is the task of the Kanungo? Go to the market and report all prevailing rate of crops. Basically, market price. The Kanungo would then send this information to Agra. Send information. At Agra, the finance minister, which is Wazir, will create a Ray list for every crop, which is list of prices at which the produce share will be converted to cash obligation. And then this was sent to the Munsif. This was sent to the Munsif. And then the Munsif would tell the tax collector, to apply the formula 1/3 into produce into Ray to get state obligation. Is this making sense? Now, is this making sense? How does it actually work? This is basically how they used to calculate how much they are going to get it, how much cash they will get it. The most important formula for you, see, there's no CSAT question which is going to come. I will show you what you can expect in the examination, but I'm explaining it to you so that you don't have to learn it. It's a very simple system, straightforward system. And see, it sounds like this. Insisted measurement of sown land A crop rate ray was drawn up, laying down the state's share for different crops. This would then be converted into cash in the basis of prevailing market rates in different areas. The share of the state was one third of the produce. The land was divided into good, middling, and bad, and the average produce was computed. One third was going to be state share, and then ray was multiplied, and the state would prefer the cash, would prefer the revenue in cash. That is the most important thing for Sheshasuri. So very simply, again repeating for again repeating everything. Previously, please pay attention. Previously, one third was the standard tax which every ruler took. One third of produce is something which everybody takes. That is not something new. If you're producing 120 kgs, 40 kgs is state share. But Sher Shah Suri did not want wheat, because then he would have to go to the market, sell the wheat, makes no sense. So what he did was, previous rulers, if they wanted cash, they used to multiply with it with a very fixed number. That fixed number did not change if it was wheat, barley, millet, does not matter. This basically is disadvantages for the state also, and is also disadvantages for the peasant also, because he would then not produce something whose prevailing market price is less, and the state loses out on taking more out of somebody who's selling it more. So what Sher Shah Suri does is, he keeps the first part of the formula exactly the same. We still want one third of the produce, but we will not convert every, please pay attention, we will not convert every crop at a fixed number, or fixed number of fixed rate. We will do it at ray, which is, I will convert wheat for rupees 5, I will convert rice at rupees 8, I will convert millets at rupees 10. Very simply, every crop was centrally listed how much that ray is going to be. So for a wheat farmer, I'm taking just from it, rice also, millet also. This gives you differential rates for each crop itself. The Kanungo goes to the market, says to the state, rice is selling for 5 rupees, the wheat is selling for 10 rupees. That information sent to Agra. Agra will decide, okay, rice is selling for 5 rupees, let's ask convert it at 4 rupees, and wheat is selling for 10 rupees, let's convert it at 10 rupees. Once they have decided, okay, wheat is this, rice is this, they will send it to the munsif. That once you send the tax collector to the peasant has to pay 50, has to pay in one case, he will say that, one second, finding that page. Yeah, in one case, he will go to A and say, give me 16 rupees. And he will go to B and say, give me 32 rupees. On the other hand, previously, when the tax collector is to go, he did not care. He said, whatever you produce, 28 rupees you have to give. Is this making sense? This, then people may not shift to certain crops. Yes. This is the first page. This is the second page. This is the, one second, because I've made it on different slides. This is the third page. This is the fourth page. So very simply, it's a very interesting system. We tend to think of medieval India as random, but you see how they have produced a very interesting model for what we call as seasonal, every once a year, ray is decided. And then if I'm a peasant, now I'm not at a disadvantage for producing a crop which sells at a lower price. Is everybody clear with regards to this? If it is clear, Kanungo can do corruption, sure, why not? We'll talk about that when we'll talk about Akbar. But I need to know, if I say ray, it should make sense. You will not find these type of explanations in books. You want to ask something to me, ask me right now. Ray is differential crop rate, or different rate at which the crop or produce will be converted to cash. Market price decides what is the ray. If everybody says yes, I give you a break here, and then we talk about Akbar because Sher Shah Suri is over. Are we clear with regards to this concept? Humayun did not change the system, only Sher Shah did. Pre Sher Shah, this is the model is fixed. After Sher Shah, it is based on rate. Aman, don't bring in MSP and the essential commodities because it will only mess up. I know you are very good at economics, but don't do it. It will, this is nothing close to MSP because the way it is calculated is totally different. Just think of it very simply. I am going to tax you more when you are producing something which sells at a more price. I will tax you less if you are producing something which sells at a lower price. That's it. Simple, straightforward mathematics or simple, straightforward concept. Nobody is going to ask you to explain this in the examination, but still I am explaining it to you because you need to learn this so better understand it. Simple, straightforward concept. Anybody has any issue? I am not taking questions. GST is totally different. Stop doing this to yourself. I really don't care if modern concepts fit in medieval India or not. I really don't care. And as it is, it won't. I told you keep the economist aside, but somehow he comes back or she comes back. I don't care. I'm not answering questions how it is related to GST because there's no connection itself. Capitalist economy does not exist. GST and all is of a capitalist economy. Straightforward. Anybody has any issue till this point? Come on, have to be vocal right now. Hereafter, I will not repeat what is Ray because Akbar is going to complicate this system. The Salar Zapti I will discuss once I reach Akbar. Clear? Yes? Yes. Okay. So we take a break here. We take a break here and we come back at what is the time? Let's take it as 1:30 itself. We come back at 1:40. When we come back at 1:40, I talk about Akbar's political, but not about Mansabdari and all that. I'll talk about Jahangir, I'll talk about Shah Jahan, and I'll talk about Aurangzeb. Most probably, this will take us an hour, and then we will move to Zabti, Dasala, Nasak, Batai, Khet Batai, thereafter the concept of Mansabdari, Rajput, religious, and decline. So, we are now done with the Sher Shah part, and I hope Sher Shah is totally clear to everyone. I see you at 1:40. Do not complicate it for yourself. See you. Welcome back. Okay. No Ishfaq, nothing at all. Till UPSC does not notify, doesn't matter. Now, Sher Shah Suri done. Now we will discuss about Akbar. Akbar's basic history we already know was crowned the king at a very young age. But now there's a problem in this type of understanding. See, Akbar at the age of 13 in 1556 becomes the Mughal emperor. But he's a child. He basically cannot have the right set of skills to fight with anybody right now. So therefore, a very important personality who was the tutor of Akbar, also a very good important noble of Humayun, Bairam Khan steps up. Bairam Khan steps up with regards to he takes it upon himself to rule on the behalf of Akbar, and that is why it is called, the period is called Bairam Khan Regency. Between 1556 to 60, it's called Bairam Khan Regency. Gori being placed, it makes Mahmud of Gori a position, not. No, his name is Muhammad of Gori. So Muhammad is his name. So Sultan Muhammad of Gori. Name is Muhammad. So when we talk about Akbar, Akbar, as soon as he comes to power, he goes into the regency of Bairam Khan, which is basically the concept, very straightforward concept, which is that Bairam Khan is going to rule in the name of Akbar, but the emperor is Akbar. Regent or regency is the concept of ruling in the name of someone. Now, Bairam Khan's most important act and the most important challenge came just 5 to 6 months of Akbar becoming king itself, because now the Afghans again became an issue. The Afghans, after Sher Shah Suri's son was killed, was still an issue because the Afghans were now regrouping under a very important personality. His name Hemu or Hemchandra. He is considered the prime minister of an Afghan king, and Hemu was basically now looking for taking back the Mughal Empire or the Sher Shah Suri Empire or the Lodi Empire, which Humayun had taken back. And now, very simply, the Mughal Empire was again in disarray because of Akbar being very small and Bairam Khan ruling against the name of Akbar. Now, it is in this context that basically Akbar and Bairam Khan will now fight Hemu, because Hemu was now moving towards Agra in what we call as the Second Battle of Panipat. The Second Battle of Panipat is very significant because if the regency of Bairam Khan was not enough or would not have been successful, or Akbar would not have come what we call as the victor in this, maybe Mughal history would have been different. So just after coming to power, Bairam Khan has to face Hemu, and thereafter this is going to be the most important battle they are going to fight. It is also believed that Hemu, for most of the Second Battle of Panipat, had a upper edge, and it seemed that Akbar was going to lose under Bairam Khan regency. But by chance, one of the archers of the Mughal Empire or the Mughal archer was able to hit the eye of Hemu, and Hemu, after getting hit, was became unconscious, and as soon as he became unconscious, there was disarray in the Afghan army, and that in turn led to the eventual defeat of, or the victory of, the Mughals. Now, Behram Khan had one rule, and that rule was that he would never ever leave the ruler alive. So he used to behead every ruler he used to win over. So he had a very simple concept: if you lose at battle, he's going to kill you. This is something which did not sit very well with Akbar. And once the second battle of Panipat happened and the 4 years of Behram Khan regency, by 1560, there were two pressures on Behram Khan, or on Akbar generally. Firstly, Akbar did not like how Behram Khan generally operated in the battlefield. He has a little bit of different orientation in that regard. But what is more interesting is that the foster mother, or basically this what we call as a midwife, in a way, that the person who Akbar revered quite a lot, but was not the mother of Akbar, but Akbar was kept in a lot of safe custody under her when Kamran also took him away from his parents. And that lady's name is Maham Anga. Mahanga or Maham Anga is basically considered the foster mother of Akbar, and Mahamanga did not like the way Behram Khan was very powerful. He was de facto ruler in that regard. So Mahamanga created a lot of pressure on Akbar to remove Behram Khan, and in a very dramatic fashion, in one war which they won against a Rajput, Akbar protested against the fact that Behram Khan should not kill the Rajput king, and that in turn led to a schism between Behram Khan and Akbar. And thereafter, Akbar said to Behram Khan that I think I am now old enough to understand warfare. I relieve you of your duties. And he was asked to go to Hajj. Whilst on his way to Hajj, he will be killed on the way by bandits, most probably actually funded by Mahamanga itself. Nobody liked Behram Khan in that regard. And later, Maham Anga herself became a problem for Akbar. And by 1560, she was also dead because of old age. So we believe that Akbar's period can be divided into two parts. One is Behram Khan regency, or the custodians or the guardians of Akbar were influencing him between 1556 to 1560, 60 maximum 62. But thereafter, 62 Mahamanga will die, and after 1562, Akbar became more independent and his policy started to reflect that, and we will see that also. Akbar, throughout his rule, also had one issue. His stepbrother Mirza Hakim was a problem for him throughout, because there will be multiple rebellions of Mirza Hakim, his half brother, and therefore Akbar throughout this period after 1562 will keep on defeating Hakim at different points of time, but he will be a problem for Akbar for sure. So Akbar took position, and I'm repeating everything. Who appointed Behram Khan? Behram Khan self-appointed, because he was very simply considered the oldest and the most important personality, self-appointed. So Akbar succeeded a difficult position. I'm repeating everything to the PPT. Afghans were still regrouping in the Agra sector, beyond the Agra sector rather, and they were now under the leadership of Hemu. Kabul was attacked, and Behram Khan, as soon as Kabul will be attacked, will basically step up and become the regent for Akbar itself. Mughals and Afghan forces will fight on 5th November 1556 in what is called the Second Battle of Panipat, out of which Akbar is going to come out victorious. Now, generally, the NCRT used to divide it into three phases. We divide into four phases: 1556 to 1562, then 1562 to 1570, and thereafter the same. So this is going to be first, this is going to be second, this is going to be third and fourth. So throughout the first period under Behram Khan's regency and his domestic staff, which is nothing but Mahamanga, he will have to fight with his own half brother Hakim, and he will go after Chittor and Ranthambore, which we will discuss when we will discuss Rajput policy. After 1570, the next period of 85, he will go to Gujarat, Bihar, Bengal, again a rebellion from Hakim, and 1585 to 1605. 1605, Akbar will die. This period was now moving towards the Deccan sector, and he will fully subdue Hakim. And now the problems with Salim will start, which is Jahangir, which I'll tell you, because Jahangir also a little bit rebellious, which I'll tell you, which is going to become a standard tradition in that regard. So brother and half brother means, brother means from the same mother, half brother would mean that Humayun's other wife son. Right. Now, anybody has based any issue till this point? Behram Khan Regency, Second Battle of Panipat, simple point of Mirza Hakim. These names you should know. Nothing more. Basic points were already given in the NCRT, which is gone, but I have it here. Are we clear with regards to whatever we are doing till this point? Because then I want to discuss about a very interesting tradition which comes through, and very simply a concept of Jahangir coming to power, then Noor Jahan, and then Shah Jahan. 1560 to 70 period is when he starts to become more and more independent. 70 to 85 is when he starts to go towards the southern sector, and last will be only about Deccan itself. Second Battle of Panipat is between Hemu and Behram Khan, basically Hemu and Akbar. Akbar wins. Yes, throughout his rule, Mirza Hakim kept on revolting, and that irritated Akbar quite a lot, and that is why he moved towards the Rajput also, which I will discuss. Hemu is, or Hemchandra is, the leader of the Afghans. I really don't care about who his backstory. He's of no purpose to me. That's it. Are we clear with regards to what we've discussed till this point? Have to be more vocal. Saturday, first 2 hours only, you have started to become more and more silent. Need to tell me, can I move forward? All this is political history, nothing big, nothing groundbreaking. I'm telling you here. Standard story given in Satish Chandra also, so not a big thing. Okay. Now, now, now there's a certain interesting pattern which emerges in Hemchandra. Hemu is a Hindu Afghan noble. So he was part of the Afghan army, but he was a Hindu. So Hindu Muslim, I don't know how does it really matter here, but yes, Hemchandra is a Hindu name. He was the governor, or rather, he was the prime minister of an Afghan king. Afghan king was useless, but he was very, very good. Communal quench, the thirst is gone. Okay, very good. Now the pattern which we see generally amongst Mughal rulers is that somehow the father and the son fight, then they reconcile, and then the power is transferred. This is a very standard story which comes through. For example, Jahangir Salim, he he did not like Akbar's entourage, if you want to call it, the people around Akbar, and he was very eager to come to power. By 1603, 1604, he was very, very eager to come to power. Akbar was also very, very old. No animosity between them, but as a way of asserting his power, one of the most trusted nobles, one of the most trusted person of Akbar, Abul Fazl, who wrote the Akbarnama and the Ain Akbari also, in order to show that he was not very happy, he beheaded Abul Fazl and sent his head to Akbar to show that he had now started to become more and more rebellious. So Akbar was very quick to realize that Jahangir is now becoming more assertive. So he transferred power to him by 1605. However, the problem is that Salim, it was not his father which was a problem, but Salim's son was the problem, which is Jahangir's son named Khusrau. Khusrau very simply wanted power before his father itself. He said, he told to Akbar that don't give power to my father, give it to me. Now, Jahangir basically had to fight with his own son. This is father, son, and Akbar's was the father. He was a son. So Akbar's grandson wanted to capture power. Akbar's grandson wanted to capture power. And very simply, now Jahangir and Khusrau will fight. Jahangir will defeat Khusrau very easily, imprison him, and later get him killed in order to have a stable empire. So very simply, there's a very interesting tradition which is there: father son fighting for power, which is going to happen between Jahangir and Shah Jahan also, Shah Jahan and Aurangzeb also, which is standard thing which is going to emerge. So Babur did this division, Humayun to Akbar nothing, but thereafter Akbar to Jahangir, Khusro issue, Jahangir to Shah Jahan, Shah Jahan was the issue itself, and thereafter I will tell you why, and then Shah Jahan and Aurangzeb because of Dara Shikoh. This is a very standard pattern. Yes, there is the story of Akbar Birbal. The Birbal was there. Birbal is considered one of the Navratans of Akbar. Don't worry about that. Now, Jahangir, when he comes to power, Jahangir is a little bit. Who was Khusro? The son of Jahangir. Pay attention. He's the son of Jahangir, grandson of Akbar. Jahangir had to fight his son to capture power, and therefore he made his empire stable when Jahangir was able to imprison his son itself, and thereafter Jahangir became more or less stable. Jahangir generally a little bit of different orientation, keeps the standard Deccan push and conquests forward, but we know Jahangir, or Jahangir is known for marrying Noor Jahan, a very important and interesting lady who he married, and she emerged as a parallel center of power, and that I'm going to discuss once we consolidate Jahangir itself. So Jahangir fights his son to come to power, issues interesting decrees in which he had the concept of, he had a very good sense of justice. So he said that people should have access to the emperor so that they can reach the emperor for justice generally. And Khusro, very simply, was his son who fought with him, and Khusro was imprisoned. Jahangir then married Noor Jahan, and Noor Jahan is going to become a problem for Jahangir later, which I will tell you how. The simple point of the matter, I'll repeat this out of the PPT so there's no issue. When we talk about Jahangir, eldest son of Akbar, and did not get any issues in fighting his brothers, but after Jahangir's succession, his eldest son, Khusro, broke out into rebellion. Tussle between father and son was not something unusual, but when Jahangir very simply had rebelled against his father, he did not fight his father, he did not fight Akbar. Akbar was smart enough. Khusro's rebellion was short-lived. Jahangir defeated him at Lahore, later captured and imprisoned him. Thereafter, what is the interesting concept with regards to Jahangir? Different ordinances, 12 different laws he brought in, which is called the Zanjir-e-Adal, wherein he created a system of justice, where he wanted people to have access to the king, and therefore he very simply enforced a very interesting system of justice. Married Mehrunisa, who later he renamed as Noor Jahan or Padshah Begum or Noor Mahal in 1611. She was a widow, Afghan widow who he married. Jahangir is also known for two very important things, which is the 1613 and 1615 Farman, which he gave to the British. Via 1613, what was given to the British? What was given to the British? 1613 Farman, modern India, come on. 1613 Farman, Jahangir, why important? Golden Farman is 1632, that is Golconda. 1613 Farman, considered why so important? Come on, modern India, you've done it. Not Magna Carta, that is 1717, Farooq Siyar. Yes, Chinu, very good. Very good, very good, very good. Anybody else? East India Permit, Dastak, no, not Dastak. Chunu is already given the answer, not reconciliation. I'm looking for a place for which the Farman was given. It allowed the British to have a factory in India. Yes, Naveen, very good. Very good. Surat. The first factory of the British in India was in Surat. That was given through the 1613 Farman of Jahangir, which Thomas Roe and William Hawkins were able to get through. And 1615 is important because access to Bengal, to Mauchlypatnam, to Broch, and to parts of Agra were also given to him. Modern day standard thing. These are considered the 5 to 6 very important farmans. Golden Farman 32, first 1613, 1615, 1632, 1651, 1717. 1613 Surat, 1615 expansion, 1632 Golconda, 1651 Shah Shuja, which we'll discuss, one of the sons of Shah Jahan, and thereafter 1717, which is Farrukhsiyar, which is nothing but the golden, which is called the Magna Carta of the East India Company in India. So very simply, Jahangir did two blunders which India will pay for later, which is giving access to the British into India generally. Now I want to discuss Noor Jahan. Before I discuss this, what was written in the PPT, or rather in the NCRT? Continued the campaigns of Akbar. Sisodias of Mewar, Amar Singh accepted Mughal service, which we'll discuss. Sikhs, Ahoms and Ahmednagar followed. Sikhs, Guru Arjan Singh, Guru Arjan Dev and Jahangir had a conflict, and Jahangir thereafter martyred Arjan Dev, and his own son Shah Jahan will rebel, which I will discuss with you, because of Noor Jahan, which I will discuss with you generally. Shah Jahan I will come to. I need to discuss Noor Jahan with you. If I have your permission, can I discuss Noor Jahan? If everything is making sense. This is all factual knowledge about the Mughals. Does not really matter to me. Yes. Okay. Now, Jahangir, basic things we know. Farmans also we know. Autobiographies name, if you want the name of the autobiography, that is self-implied. Tuzuke Jahangiri, written in Persian, wrote his own story. That's it. Now, Jahangir is generally considered a person who was not of very power-hungry orientation. But Noor Jahan was. Noor Jahan was. She was basically very, very hungry for power. Now, Khurram, which is the name of Shah Jahan, was one of the most favorite sons of Noor Jahan. Along with Khurram, her mother and her father, Mirza Giyas Beg was his name, buried just outside Agra, called Imaduddaullah's tomb. Together, they created a group, and that group was called Noor Jahan Junta. Junta means group. Noor Jahan Junta. Junta means group. Noor Jahan Junta very simply became a parallel power center. And Shah Jahan was initially a part of it. And between 1611 to 1622, she was very, very active in influencing politics, trying to undercut Jahangir also at one point of time. But things will become complicated when in 1622, Jahangir will fall ill. Now you tell me, would Shah Jahan assume that Noor Jahan would nominate him as the emperor? Yes or no? Yes. They are part of one junta. So obviously, Shah Jahan presumed that Noor Jahan would push Shah Jahan or Khurram as the next emperor. That is presumed because of the junta concept itself. You're part of a group, and that group basically has captured power. So why not? But now Noor Jahan starts to do politics. That after 1622, Noor Jahan alienates or abandons Khurram, which is nothing but Shah Jahan, and she now starts to move towards, or rather nominates, a person called Shasyar. Shasyar is nothing but he is the son-in-law of Noor Jahan. He is the husband of Noor Jahan's daughter. And now Shah Jahan could see that if he does not do anything about it, the next ruler of Mughal India would have become Shashyar. Now, till this point, everybody is with me. No issue. You understand the internal politics. First, they're a junta, but thereafter, Noor Jahan abandons Khurram Shah Jahan because Shah Jahan was actually not the biological son of Noor Jahan. Rather, he was one of the sons of Jahangir. Till this point, anybody has any issue. So she rather wanted to go with her daughter's husband, who would become a puppet ruler, and she could rule in the name of Shashyar. Anybody has any issue till this point? Please tell me. Noor Jahan was a widow before she married. Issue is totally different altogether. I am asking, do you have an issue with the larger understanding? Anybody? No issue? Okay, no issue. Great. So now let's take this story. One second. Let's take this story forward. How Shashyar was puppet because he had no mind of his own. Noor Jahan controlled him. I really don't care about him because he's not the next ruler. Now what happens is that Shah Jahan was asked by, not basically by Jahangir, but by Noor Jahan, that there is some issue in Kandahar. There's some issue in Kandahar, which is Afghanistan sector. And what did Noor Jahan do was that Noor Jahan nominated Shah Jahan or Khurram to or rather go to Kandahar and fight the rebellion. Now tell me, why would Shah Jahan protest against this? Shah Jahan protested against this. Why would Shah Jahan protest against this? He did not want to go to Kandahar. Why? Use your basic logic. Not misled. Shah Jahan can see that Shashyar is basically being pushed. Why would he not go to Kandahar? Plot of his murder not that dramatic. He's not that weak. Maybe a conspiracy to kill, clear the way. See, very simply, Kandahar will take time, which means that he has to stay away from Agra for a very long period. And if you basically go to a very distant place, he has no control over Agra politics. What Shah Jahan thought was, if he goes to Kandahar, then he will become too distant from the basic politics, and the way of Shashyar becoming the king would become easy. And therefore, there's a very interesting thing which happens. When Jahangir will ask Shah Jahan to go to Kandahar, Shah Jahan will say, no, I will not go to Kandahar. If I go to Kandahar, then give me the command of the army. I want to be the commander-in-chief of the army. Only then I go to the Kandahar sector. However, in this army, there were much bigger nobles and much more important personalities than Khurram, like a prince. You had Man Singh, you had Amar Singh, very, 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 very towering leaders of the Mughal Empire were there in this army. They said no. So Jahangir said, no, I can't give you. Basically, Noor Jahan influencing Jahangir to say no. So Shah Jahan said that I will not go then. So what Shah Jahan does is, he rebels and he captures the Gujarat sector. And the nobles of the Deccan and the Gujarat sector were with Shah Jahan, knowing that Shah Jahan is a better ruler than Shashyar. They did not want Noor Jahan's influence. And his basic thing was, I will now capture Agra for sure, because I will now need to capture Agra to become the king. So what will happen is that Jahangir will then send his one of the most important deputies, one of the most fiercest of what we call as army generals, his name Mahabat Khan, to capture Shah Jahan and bring him back to Agra. So while Mahabat Khan will enter into the Gujarat sector, Shah Jahan will go through the Deccan and then enter from Bengal and move towards Agra. When he will be a little bit far away from Agra again Jahangir would have to send Mahabat Khan to subdue the rebellion of Shah Jahan. This back and forth will happen at least for 6 to 7 months. But thereafter, Jahangir will come out of the influence of Noor Jahan, and he will realize that Shah Jahan was the better leader and Shahshyar was basically Noor Jahan's puppet. And he will write a letter to Shah Jahan, and Shah Jahan will also try to reconcile with his father Jahangir, and father and son. Jahangir will forgive Shah Jahan, and this is how Shah Jahan captures power. He had to remove Noor Jahan's influence over Jahangir, and he will basically fight with Jahangir twice before he will be able to come, or rather become the king, because of Noor Jahan's influence. And that is why Noor Jahan is considered equally important as Jahangir, because she influenced the politics between after 1622 quite a lot, when Jahangir was not in a position to take decisions for himself or for the empire generally. So this is a very interesting case of, again, father and son fighting, but this time it was Noor Jahan who was playing politics in the background. So Shah Jahan's interesting story is this only, that his succession was problematic. Again, nobody's asking you succession, but I'm telling you that. But his contributions are equally interesting. We know Shah Jahan as the marble person. He shifted everything to marble. He is the one who made, or rather, the most important contribution, shifted capital away from Agra to Delhi. What Sikandar Lodi had done was to shift it from Delhi to Agra. He will bring it back to Delhi. He did not like Agra quite a lot, though he will build Taj Mahal because the space was available in, and the resources were available in Taj Mahal more, or in Agra more. But he will then build a new city called Shahjahanabad, which we call Red Fort today, and one of the biggest masjids in India, which is Jama Masjid, and the whole Delhi 6 area will be developed by Shah Jahan himself. He will be the architect. He will be the most important personality in order to commemorate his wife's wife, or his love for wife, which is Mumtaz Mahal, by creating the Taj Mahal itself, one of the seven wonders of the world. But he's also significant because he tried to curb the power of the Portuguese in the Bengal sector. He later will be imprisoned by his son, which I will tell you, which is Aurangzeb. There's an internal politics there also. Darashiko, one of his most important sons, one of the most eldest sons, is going to be one of the greatest in when it comes to cultural aspect, because Darashiko will what we call translate the Bhagavad Gita, the Upanishads, into Persian. He will also translate the Atharva Veda into Persian. He wanted to understand what is the important text of India. He will also develop the Peacock throne, which will be taken by Nadir Shah later. And Bernier and Trevenier, along with Mundi and Manusi, will come under Shah Jahan. Shah Jahan's period is considered a very prosperous period, but that had a consequence on the Mughal Empire, which we'll discuss when we'll talk about decline. So, till this point, we moved from. So, what does the NCRT talk about him? Again, Deccan campaign, rebellion of Khan Jahan Lodi, an Afghan rebel itself. Ahmednagar, Bundelas will become an issue for him again. That whole Deccan sector will become problematic. Uzbeks will also be a problem for him. Later, we'll go into a conflict with his own son, which is Aurangzeb, and we'll talk about that once we are done with this sector. So, again, a lot of political history for you. Humayun, Akbar, Jahangir, Shah Jahan. Succession stories, nobody cares. But are you able to understand what is the internal politics of Mughal Empire as of right now? Do you understand Noor Jahan's role? And do you really understand why is it important to study this? This is important to study because at the end of the day, we need to know their basic internal politics. Humayun to Akbar, Sher Shah Suri in between. Akbar to Jahangir, Khusrau. Jahangir to Shah Jahan, Noor Jahan, Junta. Can I talk about Aurangzeb and the Darashiko and Battle of Samugad and all? Can I do that? Come on. Yes? Okay. Right. Everybody's with me. Come on. If you need, I'll give you a 5-minute break also. Don't worry. 3 o'clock as it is, we break. You want a breather? I'll breathe, let you breathe. But you have to tell me if it's making sense or not. If it isn't, though there's nothing, it's a story, and stories don't matter to us. I think basic picture should be clear. Because Noor Jahan Junta, you can find somewhere reference generally, so you should know. Okay. Now see, Shah Jahan had 4 major sons, multiple sons, but 4 major sons, and 3 daughters. Shah Jahan had 4 major sons. First, Dara Shikoh. Second is Shah Suja. Third son was Aurangzeb. And the last son was Murad Baksh. He has 3 daughters also, Jahanara, Roshanara, Goharara. Now, they in themselves were very, very powerful prince or princes in that regard. Dara Shikoh used to control Gujarat, Allahabad at that point of time, now Prayagraj, Multan, parts of Kabul, Bihar, Lahore, all used to come under Dara Shikoh. He was the governor. Shah Shuja was the governor of, can anybody tell me he was the governor of what? Governor of Bengal. Very good. He's the one who gave the 1651 Farman, which allows them to trade in Bengal for 3,000 rupees. They could very simply trade in Bengal for free. Okay. Aurangzeb was the governor of Gujarat, Multan, and Sindh, and Murad Baksh was Malwa governor. And the sisters also sided with the brothers. So we believe that Dara Shikoh was supported by Jahanara, Aurangzeb was supported by Roshanara, and Murad Baksh was supported by Gohar Ara. These are the 3 daughters of Shah Jahan. Now, Shah Jahan always had a sweet spot for Dara Shikoh. Dara Shikoh was actually one of the better rulers out of all these 4. Very syncretic, understood Hindu culture very well, was very interested in scriptures, translated a lot of things under the right influence of what we call as tolerance. Very, very syncretic, very modern person in that regard. But Aurangzeb did not like that. Aurangzeb did not like the fact that Dara Shikoh was going to be, eldest son was going to be the king. Now, there is, as I said, there is no basic, what we call a surprise to the fact that brothers are fighting for the throne. But here what happens is that Dara Shikoh and Aurangzeb go into a proper conflict with Shah Jahan supporting Dara Shikoh. Remember, Shah Jahan supports Dara Shikoh. So now at the Battle of Samugad, which happens in 1658, Aurangzeb and Murad fight with Dara. Now, whilst Dara Shikoh was a very good, culturally good person, the problem was that he was not a very good general. While Aurangzeb was a very good general and very good at war. And both of them will defeat Dara Shikoh. And when Aurangzeb will move to enter into the Agra fort where Shah Jahan was, Shah Jahan will actually close the gate of Agra fort in the face of Aurangzeb. Aurangzeb will stand outside and the Agra fort will be close to him. So Aurangzeb, what he did was, in order to compel Shah Jahan to open that gate, he will stop the water supply of the Agra fort itself. And later, Shah Jahan would have to open the gates. That is why, in order to punish his father for supporting Dara Shikoh, Aurangzeb will imprison Shah Jahan, who hated Agra, 8 years in the same fort in which he locked, or which he locked in front of Aurangzeb. Along with that, Jahanara will also be imprisoned, and till his death, Shah Jahan will be in Agra itself, in Agra fort. Aurangzeb, after winning, will murder Murad and capture power and become the emperor of Mughal India. But the problem with Aurangzeb was that he was just the opposite of Akbar, wherein he became a very staunch Muslim. He did something to the Rajputs, wherein the Rajputs will also start to alienate him. And generally, Aurangzeb's politics was based on orthodox Muslim policy, and that in turn very simply weakened the imperial power. And though it is not fully Aurangzeb's fault that the Mughal Empire declined, but he did not help the fact that his father had spent quite a lot. He had inherited a fiscal crisis, but his policies did not allow for that fiscal crisis to get resolved, which we'll discuss when we talk about decline. But for the purpose of the examination, you generally need to know about Samugad, Dara Shikoh, Shah Jahan's imprisonment, and Aurangzeb's Muslim, very what we call as very orthodox Muslim stance, which I will explain to you why that was. But we remember him for that only. So very simply, imprisoned his father, simply died. He died. The Shah Jahan died in Agra itself. Jahanara was also imprisoned. Dara was defeated at Samugad. He will take title of Alamgir. Then he was called Zinda Pir, that he's a very staunch Muslim, does not do anything which the Quran does not say, or very simply followed the Sharia law very closely. He will remove the influences which Akbar brought in into the court, which I will discuss with you. This discussion will have in religious policy. All dance, all music will be stopped. Jizya and pilgrimage tax, two things which Shah Jahan had removed in the later period of his rule, he will bring it back. But it's not that between Akbar to Aurangzeb no jizya was there. Akbar will remove it from time to time. Jahangir and Shah Jahan will bring it back. But when Aurangzeb came to power, jizya was not there. Thereafter, he will forbade the writing of the Quran on coins, because he believed that the coins were thrown on the ground and people used to trample the coin, which is disrespect to the Quran itself. He will remove all Iranian influences, the Safavid influences, saying that those are Persian influences, not Muslim influences. And he will also appoint what we call as muntashibs. Muntashibs are very simply moral officers, that in public places there should be no non-Muslim, what we call as a non-Quranish behavior, that you cannot get intoxicated, cannot have alcohol when it comes to in public itself. Private he's not controlling. In public he wanted everybody to be a good Muslim in that regard. Simply, we also know about him through his temple destruction and multiple interactions with local rulers, which we'll discuss in decline. What did the NCRT used to tell us? It used to talk about how he meddled into Sikh politics, which I will discuss with you. Har Rai Ram Rai controversy. He was the one who meddled with Rathore Rajputs, which is something against what his forefathers had done. He will also have his own son fight against him, which is Akbar too, will fight against him to capture power, but later his son will flee. He will be, throughout his rule, dotted with rebellions from the Sikhs, Jats, Satnamis, and a very major power had emerged under Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj, which is the Marathas. And the Marathas will become a major problem for Aurangzeb in the Deccan sector, which we'll discuss under the Maratha subcategory. So very simply, before I move to administration and the most important part, let me consolidate everything. Let's test your knowledge about this through the questions, and then we can talk about administration. Acceptable? This is the political story of these rulers. Generally need to know the flow and ebb. That is it. Nothing very straightforward. Can I consolidate, and can we then test your knowledge with regards to whatever we've done till this point? These two things. Can we do it? Yes? Okay. So we started with Humayun. Humayun we did. Now please pay attention. I'm not writing it down. I'm revising with you. Chausa, Kannauj, Sarhind. Three battles. Second battle of Panipat. Sheshasuri, Sikandar Suri. Humayun and Amarkot or Akbar being born. Second battle of Panipat, Bairam Khan regency. Bairam Khan saves the Mughal Empire from Hemu, Afghan, or Afghan onslaught under Hemu itself. Thereafter, Akbar starts to consolidate. Mahamanga is dead in 1562. Between 1556 to 62, he is under the influence of Bairam Khan and Mahamanga. After 62 to 1605, he has his own policies. We will discuss that. Mansabdari, Jagirdari, everything we will discuss. Thereafter comes Jahangir. Jahangir asserted his power by showing displeasure to Akbar. He had to fight his son Khusro. After subduing Khusro, his major issue became his wife itself, which is Nur Jahan. Nur Jahan formed a junta with Shah Jahan, her mother and father. Till 1622, they were in good terms. After 1622, Nur Jahan started to push Shashyar. Shashyar was the puppet ruler she wanted to install, and Shah Jahan will rebel against Jahangir to capture power, and Shah Jahan will come to power. Shah Jahan had four sons: Murad, Shah Shuja, Darashiko, and Aurangzeb. Darashiko and Aurangzeb fight to win. Aurangzeb wins and imprisons Shah Jahan for supporting his son, his eldest son Darashiko, with Jahanara. And thereafter, very simply, Aurangzeb's rule is dotted with multiple issues, which we'll discuss in decline. Anybody has any issue in this story which we've done? If all of this is clear, I would like to test your knowledge through the polling feature, and we will at least do 3 to 4, 5 questions with regards to the facts we've done till this point. Anybody has any issue till this point? You want to call, you want to do, and I'm enabling the call feature also if you want to call and ask me something relevant to the discussion what we've done. Murad was killed by Aurangzeb. God doesn't care. Come on. Anybody, any issue? Roshanara was with Aurangzeb. Can I ask you the questions then, if everybody's very, very clear about what we're doing? Can I do that? At least say yes for that or no for that. Prateek, refresh if you're not able to see the calling feature, but it should be there. Supporter sister does not really matter. I'm just telling you that. You can send me a request and I can take up the call. Okay. Yes. Anybody wants to call before I take the questions? Or you figure it out how you're able to. No calling feature, it can't be. Allow live call, I've done it from here. So you just have to go into your doubt section. It will show call and send a request. That should be there. That should be there. What about Shah Shuja? Shah Shuja was not, very simply, he was happy to be in Bengal in that regard. You want my email ID? Abhishek.mishra19@byju's.com. Okay. Pratik, it should be there. Maybe in the next session you check in the start itself. Not yet. It can't be. I've enabled it here, so it can't be. So either it's a tech issue or we'll see. Next session I'll enable it in. It's already enabled, but you'd see it should come after refreshing. There should be call feature. Okay. So let's do one thing. Let's then test your knowledge. How much do you remember? This is our third revision. One I tell you, then we look at the PPT, then this is the third revision. This is to consolidate whatever we've done till this point. Okay. Now, let's take certain questions. Come on, tell me. (40A). Which one pair is correctly matched for 40%? 29% totally correct. Which one pair is correctly matched? For the people who have answered A, Chanderi is 1528. 1529 is Ghaggar. Chausa is 1539. And Khanwa is 1528. So all are incorrect, fully incorrect. PKCG 26, 27, rather 27, 28, 29. So this should be 28, this should be 27. Chausa is 39, 40, 55. This you will take time, but generally I am giving you 26, 27, 28, 29. Remember it like that. 39, 40, 55. This is the basic sequence. Panipat, Khanwa, Chanderi, and Chausa, and Ghaggar. Chausa, Kannauj, Sarhind. So I'll give you one more set of question like this, and then we'll move to the next type of question which can be asked. Understood your mistake? You need revision, obviously, I know that, but this is something which I did last week also. That is why I'm asking you and expecting you to answer this. Are we clear with regards to the mistake which was done? Very silent, come on. Yes, okay. Have to remember these war dates for sure. These are the dates you have to remember. For this whole, there is only this set of dates which you have to remember. Nothing more, nothing less. Dates don't matter to me, years matter. 5th October, 5th November doesn't matter to me, but year does matter. This much I expect from you, and the UPSC also expects from you that you would know. Or you should know rather. Perfect. 58% totally correct. More than half, which is good. 1526. Kannauj 1540. Gaggar 1529. This is one set of question. This is the easier. This is actually easier. Now I'll give you one more set. Why there used to be so much conspiracy about that history is all about dates during school time? Well, we should prosecute the people who spread this conspiracy. I have no idea. History, you can see, I teach dates minimal. History is not about dates and facts. It's about understanding your own past. So it's, what can you say? Um, okay, tell me. Correct chronological order. Correct chronological order. Aman, think about it. Think about 3 and 2. 85% correct. Great. 4321. Battle of Panipat 2026. Khanwa, then Ghaggar. Bairam Khan Regency, last. Akbar's accession. Now, see, this type of question, if you don't remember the dates, you can be saved here. Because if you can remember PKCG or something like an acronym, then it works. Other type of question becomes hard. Other type of question, it becomes hard. I'll give you one more question, a little bit more difficult than this, and then we can come back to our story. 1 second. Okay. Come on. The third is Salim's rebellion. Perfect. 70% totally correct. 16, 18, 8 and 5. Noor Jahan, Salim, Khurram. Salim is Jahangir, Khurram is Shah Jahan. So Jahangir will come first, then will come Noor Jahan, then will come Shah Jahan, and then will come Aurangzeb and throw 3, 4, 2, 1. Make sense? Now, are you getting the type of questions which can be asked, or for people who are preparing for BPSC or for any state PCSC? This is the type of questions which come. Purely factual questions based on your understanding. That's it. So this is the type of questions which can be asked. UPSC used to ask these questions, but I am just checking your knowledge if you remember it generally or not. So we are clear with regards to the basic events, right? Now you getting what to do with the information I've given you. Can I move on? One small section I will discuss with you, and then we will take our break for very simply lunch. Salim is the original name. Understand, Jahangir, Shah Jahan are titles. So Salim is the original name of Jahangir, Khurram is the original name of Shah Jahan. Okay. Now, what I want to discuss with you is the agrarian structure of Mughal India, which is Society of Mughal India. What are the different categories which are there? Once I discuss this with you, we'll take a break. Now, there are three major types of social categories in the rural countryside of Mughal India. One is called the Zamindar. Zamindar is nothing but landlord. He owns a lot of land, can have tenants working for him or agricultural labor. Kashish, because if I don't call them Mughals, then it will become problematic for you. Now, British did a mistake, we have to carry forward it. Okay. So, I think some of you may be Zamindars also. So, you know that this is a social category. It's a social class of people who own a lot of property, can be working themselves, but that is not possible because too much land is there. So, either they take tenants or agricultural labor to work on their land generally. I think Zamindar, nobody should have any problem. Zamindars have no administrative responsibility. They may be collecting certain amount of money from the tenants and agricultural labor, but they have no administrative responsibility and pay tax to the state. What they collect from their tenants and labor. Is Zamindar clear? Come on. Yes? Zamindar should be totally clear. Come on, yes, no, have to tell me. Okay. Now, the second and the third category are quite interesting, wherein wherein there is a person A and a person B. This is village X, Y, Z, W. There's one person A, one person B. Now, both of them have their house. Both of them have their house in village X. In village X. However, A has a plot of land in his own village, but he owns this land. Owns this land. And B, though lives in village X, he has substantial amount of land in village Y. In village Y. Land owned by B in Y village. Now, therefore, you have A who lives in X and has land also in X. You have B who lives in X but has land in Y. Anybody any issue in understanding this? So basically, who is traveling to cultivate their land? So both are basically farmers, or what we call as present proprietors. B is traveling to Y to cultivate his land. Now, in Mughal terminology, both of them had a certain term used for them. This person A is called Khudkasht and person B was called Pahikasht. A peasant who has land in his own village and lives also in that village is called Khudkasht. A peasant who lives in a village and goes to cultivate in some other village but is originally or has home in B is or basically is a migratory peasant, then he is called a Pahikasht. So, what is common between Zamindar, Pahikasht and Khudkasht? Tell me. What is common between a Zamindar, a Khudkasht and a Pahikasht? Very good. They owns his own land, owns his own land, owns his own land. So they have their own land. He has a lot of land. Location does not matter. Lives in the same village along with his land. Land and residence are in two different villages or areas. Migratory peasant non-migratory. So if you say khudkasht, pahikasht and zamindar, anybody will have any issue? No? This is okay? Okay, very good. I'll read it out to you also. Zamindars were social, heterogeneous category. Multiple types of zamindars are there. Could be autonomous, could be big enough to be chiefs in themselves. Intermediaries, primary zamindars, small, big, very big zamindars. They could be divided along caste, varna, clan, family, anything. But the most important section was the Rayat. Rayat means peasant. But the peasant was divided into two parts. You have the Zamindar, who's the Zamindar, and here the Rayat was divided into two parts. One is a peasant proprietor, Khudkasht, who cultivates. Those cultivators who did not have land in their own village were known as Muzrain, which I will discuss with you. Khudkash formed the majority of the peasants. Muzrain, I will tell you, is basically a tenant, which I will come to when I will discuss Majdoor and Muzrain. Less numerous than the Khudkash were the Pahis, who were essentially migratory cultivators. They could be either residents of the neighboring village or those who deserted their original villages itself. So they could be migratory also, or they could be going back and forth, or are not original to that place itself. Now come the other two terms, which is Muzrain and what is called Majdoor. So we have Zamindar, we have Rayat. Rayat divided into two parts, Khud Kasht and Pahikasht. Anybody has any issue here? Because it's written in a technical way in the book, so it becomes a little bit of a problem. Anybody has any issue here? What is common to all of them is they own land. They own their own land. Nobody has no issue here. Now, under them, there are two, Muzarain and Majjoor or Mazur or Majdoor, what we call today. See, the term is Muzarain and Majur, or Halis, or what we are called Hali or Majur. Halis or Majur. I'll read it out to you first and then we will see. Muzrains are category of cultivators less privileged than Khudkasht, occasionally dependent on the village moneylender zamindar for bullock carts, plows and seeds. Apart from Khudkasht, Pai and Muzrains, a section of peasants comprised of sharecroppers, and they are called Hali or Majdoor, who had overlapping positions and fluctuating rights. The dividing line between a Muzrain and a Hali was the possession of a plow and an oxen. There were references of peasants who sank from the status of Majur or Hali due to loss, or sank to the status of Majur or Hali due to the loss of agricultural assets. So the difference between a Muzrain and a Majur is that very simply, neither do not own land, do not own land, both of them. However, owns his own implements, or rather we'll say equipment. Do not own land, owns his own equipment, does not own equipment. So basically this is like a tenant, this is like a agricultural labor. So as it says here, see, dividing line is possession of plow and oxen. References to peasants who sank to Majur or Hali status due to loss of agricultural asset. So they were Muzrain, but thereafter they became Majur. So in the whole hierarchy of Mughal India, you have Zamindars who are the most privileged. Then you have under them two types, which is khudkasht. Rather, we don't write it like this. You have zamindar, then you have khudkasht and pahikasht. The difference between these will be, similarity is all own their land, and the difference between these two is that same village and land, and this is a migratory cultivator. Under them, most probably, a zamindar would employ two types of labor. One, a tenant or an agricultural labor. This was called muzran. This was called hali or majur. Difference is neither own their own land but has plow and oxen, has no agri assets. No agri assets. If their own land, why migratory other? Because the land was not good enough, so they went to a different sector. They bought something somewhere else because it was much more productive that way. So are we able to understand this whole structure? Are we able to? Important, because these terms can come in the examination. I'll give you a very simple example, very simple example, and you will never forget this concept itself, right? So I think khudkasht, pahikasht and zamindar is not a problem. That should not be a problem. The problem is between muzran and hali, and I'll give you a very simple example. You are giving an examination with your friend. So you have two types of friends who will come into the exam hall and say that you just help me in the exam. I have pen and paper, but you just help me in the examination. That is what? A hali or a muzran? He's a muzran. He says, I don't have resources to write the answer, but I do have pen and paper. And then you will have that friend who will come into the lecture or in the examination full empty handed and then say, pen and paper de de, give me pen and paper, and then also help me in the examination. So the second friend is your hali or majur, who will take the assets from you also and take help from you also. Some are good enough that they have assets, they will get pen and paper, they have that much decency, but they want help from you because they don't own their own land, neither own their own land. One has some resources which he can use, some have no other resources. Done? If this is clear, we can take a break and go for lunch in that regard. Can we? Migration would be fertility, destruction, natural disasters, anything. Okay. So I will now see you at 3:45. I've taken up your time. I'll see you at 3:45. And we will thereafter go into the next session. Part B is going to be the most significant. Do not miss it at any cost. Mansabdari, Rabti, Dasala, Rajput, everything next session. So I'll see you at 3:45. See you. Take care. Have a good lunch.